on, everybody? Welcome back to the FNCS game number 1. Chap and TD find themselves the victory royale, and that first game was absolutely crazy to see these guys come out on top and to get that interview, right? Hey, we're the best team. You just get forecast, you get this, you got, we're the best team. That's it. That's all that matters.
I mean, if you look at Major 2, Major 3, when they both got second place in both majors, yeah, they're kind of one of the best teams right now. Yeah. And showing up today and showing up early as well, eliminating Agers and Rise right off the bat.
Yeah, really interesting after this first game, because we were sort of talking about it going into the first game. Where are these guys going to land? What's their strategy going to look like? We didn't quite know, and now we get a little bit of an insight into what that's going to look like. It seems like they're really prioritizing that forecast tower. Another thing that we focused on at the beginning of the show. They want that forecast tower, and that's the reason why they're able to get height right here. You saw Cammy and Seti sort of shaping up to try and take height and holding it in that sort of 8-9 zone, but they didn't get that next zone. So Teeny and Chap took that opportunity really well because they knew where it was going.
Also, to be able to hold height for as long as they did, all the way from zone 9. Once again, the forecast tower allowing them to know where to move that height and use or save up those much needed mats towards the end of the game there. Absolutely phenomenal. What a great way to start the competition.
Just again, cold. They're just ice cold, chilling there. Yeah, we're the best. Not a big deal. Man, that is a statement game out of game number 1. But there was just so many things that transpired in game number 1. Just so many solo performances that all took place. I mean, we saw there for a moment, even Rise and Yuma making a top 3. 8 eliminations? That's terrifying. We can't let that happen.
Yes, we can, and they did. And I want to see it happen again. Rise and Yuma representing Asia right now, showing that, oh yeah, it's NA versus you. You got to watch out for Asia as well.
Yeah, these guys are really looking good right there. 8 eliminations clutching up there in the end in those final few moments. The crowd erupted as soon as they got that final elimination. Wasn't quite enough to get into that first or second, but they've got to be happy with that start, particularly on this stage.
That's right. I want to highlight Peterbot, man. I don't know what Peterbot is about, but I do now. In those final moments, you know, Poyo goes down and you have the solo clutch, and he pulled it off.
And for Peterbot to take down Clicks in game number 1, you know that there was definitely some emotions going high right there. But Peterbot, if he is down into a solo, I mean, he's honestly a duo as a single player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, both of these players have the ability to do this, solo clutches. And in big events like this, 12-game formats, these solo clutches are going to be so vital in getting these guys into a really nice position. I must say, this burst assault rifle ex Peterbot is a crazy combo. It shouldn't be allowed because he's so good with that. And then even towards these endgame situations, taking out Seti there at that final few moments just to keep himself going. Of course, too little, too late towards the end, but really great start from him.
I mean, their strategy is just so clean from the start. Landing rep, getting the coin, getting the mythic AR, going over to the forecast tower, and then getting the Rift Island as well in that game, allowing them to just have a little bit of height, a little bit more mats, and more importantly, getting that mod weapon bench so that I saw Poyo kind of modifying his weapons there, getting exactly what they wanted so that they were prepared for the end game.
I love seeing their 3rd place. Eco, Flixie, a 2nd place. They didn't even need the Victory Royale, right? The fact that they made it to 2nd place, you've already done too much. You've already let them get too far in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they started it off so strong as well, getting eliminations onto Shadow and Virgo by zone 1 there. And then, of course, just dominating the low ground as we know them to do.
Yeah, exactly. Another really solid performance of these guys. We've seen them do it previously. This is exactly what we expected. Low to mid ground, finding those eliminations. And towards the end there, where it was the final 2v2, it was kind of like Major 3, where it was 2 of the best teams in EU going head-to-head. Of course, 2 different, very different play styles. These guys are not necessarily going to be going for height every single game. But of course, what I noticed there was a little bit of a change in rotation. They went towards the north side of their drop spot. So interesting to see whether that's going to change throughout the day, whether the forecast tower fight's going to affect that. But really nice start from these guys.
That's right, guys. I know you want more action. We could talk more about this, but let's just jump back into it. MDF, the best taco. Back over to you.
Yeah, that was a very intense game, obviously, as we're coming out. You know, I couldn't even believe it. I almost, you know, just threw the whole mic off the headset. I was really into it for a second there.
Yeah, and the craziest part still, of course, we have 2 EU teams duking it out to close off our first lobby here. And match number 2 is ready to go.
The battle bus has left the station. Match number 2 is here. What do we have in store for us this game? I mean, last one was surely a surprise with the Middle Eastern teams taking a top 10 position. One Asia team up there as well. And of course, those that you expect. The best from NA, some of the greats from EU.
Yeah, and Acorn and Cold, they haven't necessarily had an easy time about it either here at Brutal Beachhead. You know, you get like the soft contest coming out of Andalix and Sato, and this could prove to be very difficult though for Andalix and Sato, because you can tell the commitment is there, but if they want to take this fight to Acorn and Cold, it could be a really difficult one to actually close out in quick fashion.
We have to give all credit to not only Clix and Vino for Clix's performance to stay alive and secure a top 15, but Demo and Resigns, who found even more placement points, ending just closer to that top 10. So a very impressive performance for teams that were contested that game, actually. When you start to do the math on that, that is almost unprecedented.
Well, it was almost like Demo and Resigns were trailing Clix and Veno the entire match, and if they hadn't actually stumbled upon Kishuro as a solo, I almost wonder if things could have maybe gone a little differently there, because that's what really got them tied up into a rough position. But again, hindsight's always 20/20. Currently, we are focused on the now. Chap and Teeny lingering around the Nitrodrome, but Kanata and Cooper close by means that all they can really look for here is just trying to prioritize their mat count.
Yeah, we do know Kanata and Cooper like to rotate closer to Agers and Rise, whom was taken out pretty early last game, so they didn't get to secure that fight, and they found themselves in a completely different battle up against Visual and Braids, and it really didn't go their way. Shortly afterwards, Braids ended up falling to Epic Whale Muzz, so pretty interesting, you know, zone dynamics starting to take shape here, and that's really part of the high level of Fortnite. Game to game, micro-adjusting, right? They all know what went well, what went wrong, and it's about adjusting in the real time. But here's Seiyun, here's Kadu against Casper and Prism. Little standoff here, so it seems like this game, similar to match one, is gonna kind of take its time rolling into the eliminations.
Yeah, Janice almost seemingly happy about the fact that these teams kind of caught wind of each other, because that allowed for him to just slip on by, head on out, red line rig, make sure that he doesn't get caught in the mix. He's clearly just trying to make a play for that reboot max. Like, didn't see Pixie anywhere near, so almost makes you wonder at the same time. It's going to be a difficult situation for a lot of these teams.
Here's Cammy and Seti. They have angles, they have a little bit of high ground. Meanwhile, King and Phaser getting active right now just outside the Rebels' roost. What is happening here? They seem to be finding their groove right now. It's Visual and Braids once again who are giving some of these duos a really difficult time, making them all second guess whether or not they should be sticking around and fighting them. So, you know, that's impressive.
Yeah, but this is also a really smart disengage from King and Phaser, recognizing the fact Sky Scroll still nearby as well. Rebels Roost just a little bit too poppin' for their interest at the moment, but even hanging around the underworld could pose some issues because they didn't stick around for the fight. Don't know how much surge damage they've actually been able to accrue at this stage, and once we start to get into that mid-game rotation aspect, we already saw a handful of teams, even some of the teams that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate to struggle with their surge damage, having issues.
Very interesting. We get to catch up with Batman Booga and Rapid here at the Grim Gate. This has been their drop spot for quite some time, coming out of Major 3, of course, with an excellent performance. You know, if you start looking at the paper trail of Rapid and Batman Booga, everyone's marking them up towards the top 3 as far as the NA teams are concerned. And talking about top 3, it wouldn't be one without Cold and Acorn. They're just putting teams down. This time, they do finish the fight up against Andalex and Sato. They don't let them escape.
But now something that Sato and Andalix are potentially going to have to start considering is if this keeps going in favor of Acorn and Cold, if they continue to take the fight to them, do you switch for day 2? But I think we still got a few more lobbies to work through before that really starts to become the real question mark here. For Stash Malibuca, though, starting off somewhat on the right foot here at Restored Reels. One elimination already. Curious if one of those is onto either Alex or Worthy.
Yeah, something happened there, but Bolts and Bryce are in a fight right now. Little build-off happening here. This is a pretty intensive early game fight for, given the situation, a Zone 1 Sky base going on here. This is going to be a full-on reset if it doesn't end fast. It's up against Vico and Clixie. You know, obviously, our second place coming out of game 1. very much fired up, very much confident.
Bryce and Bolt are not going to fold here, though. The forecast tower, the weapons bunker that spawns nearby Dupenhausen, where Bolt and Bryce like to land. And this is something that, you know, they were willing to contest Reet and Ritual for when it was Reet and Ritual at Reckless Railway. So now Vico, Flixie haven't taken over that position. And it's funny because you asked Vico in the player lounge last night, hey, what do you think about the forecast tower? He's like, that's my forecast tower. You ask any of these players who are actually trying to contest, they'll always tell you the same thing. That's my forecast. And yet, Vico, Flixie, they find themselves stuck because Bryce and Bolt either need to get eliminated or forced out here. Whoever controls the NPC is going to win.
And it's pretty incredible. You got to talk with Vico. I got to talk with Bolts and Bolts' brother, and they had nothing but positive things to say and honestly confidence about the fact that this is their forecast tower, and he's here, and he believes that paired up with Bryce, they are a perfect combination. So very interesting to see that both teams very much feel like they're entitled to this drop. Vico and Flixie seem to be the first, of course, boots on the ground here. They're going to secure the card, which means they have everything that they need here to go ahead and be the one to get the first dibs. But Bolt comes in, takes down Flixie from up above. Whose tower is it?
Vico might have that key card, but how long can he really hold on to it? He's trying to just get out of dodge at this point, creating as much space as possible. But you know Bolts and Bryce, now that they've isolated Vico by forcibly eliminating Flixie, they're going to chase him. They do not want to let him escape with that forecast key card.
And this is not just an elimination. This is not just a player. That is someone who holds the keys to every single storm for the remainder of this game. It is worth so much more than just a set of points. Bolts and Bryce have to think long and hard, and they end up easing off for a second, but it's because Clone and Kromsu is waiting for them, and Bryce is going to be one of the first to fall now as he gets ambushed.
This was almost like an unexpected gift. Clone and Kromsu were situated exclusively for the bunker, and yet when Vico tried to escape because he recognized the fact, hey, I've just got to play for the reboot. I just need to get Flixie back into this game. We'll deal with the forecast later. But Kromsu and Clone, dude, too slick with it.
That was just dirty right there to get boxed up. But look, Bolts has the card, so he actually ends up finding Vico potentially here, or no?
Vico dropped it when he was running.
He ends up dropping it just so that he doesn't, you know, bring that heat with him. So very, very interesting turn of events here.
But sure, you might have forecast secured, but at what cost? Because realistically, if I'm Kromsu, I'm not letting you escape. And that's the thing, Vico knew that there was no reason for him to continue trying to hold on. He did not have the materials to feasibly escape unless he gave up that key card.
I actually love that we got to see him drop the key card as well, right? Just saying, hey, look, you can have it, man. My hands are in the air. White flag is waved. Go ahead, take it. And he plays for another day. That just really shows you what this tournament means, right? That's not an interaction you'll have in any regular game, right? There's just something so prestigious about the Fortnite Global Championship that even the players give respect to one another like that. It's incredible to watch.
Wow, this is looking like a menacing situation building up currently, though. Clicks, Veno, Acorn, Gold, Chap, Teeny, Gammy,
Oh my
Zeddy.
gosh.
I don't think we could ask for anything better at this stage, but fact of the matter is, all these teams are just fixated on one thing, and it's likely the weapons bunker.
And you hear it, it's opening up right now, and Clicks and Vino the first to fold as they recognize, hey, there are 4 teams here. This is not the greatest idea. They double back to the campfire. They'll get their chance at the bunker, right? They'll be able to pick up some scraps, get their attachments, but first, sit things out, let things settle.
I like that flyby though, Janice and Pixie, so it looks like Janice's rescue mission was a success. He was able to make his way towards a reboot ban, but again, you have to start to wonder what kind of damage was he able to collect prior to losing Pixie. And now, Reckless Railway is heating up one more time because Vico doubled back, brought Pixie into it, but now Shadow and Virgo trying to see if they can pose a threat.
Listen, Shadow, someone I've known for a long time. I've followed his career closely. He is a very, very scary player once he starts to get situated. Game 1 jitters are out of the way now. Him and Virgo have been nothing but successful as a duo here. But wait a second, Vico and Flixie, as we know, again, are EU's best right now. clearly some of the strongest fighters on the region. And then you have OCE's Dayanith and Tinka, right? Champions of OCE lurking nearby, seeing what's happening here. Trying to put OCE's stamp on it.
But Vico and Flixie, I mean, we're talking about EU Major 3 winners at this stage, right? You've got to imagine the level of confidence. Even when you talk to either of them, they are just reeking of confidence, essentially, and for good measure, because Vico, Flixie, they've been successful, despite the fact that Vico was incredibly low on material count as well. He's still able to stave off Shadow and Virgo, and that is not an easy feat by any means.
Jumping to the other side here, Dukes and Sphinx trying to figure out what's happening down here south on the zone as things are just starting to develop. Clearly, shots are coming in from teams in the distance. Meanwhile, Queasy has that high ground. Chap, though, lurking up, trying to see how he can possibly get involved. Teeny already sitting on the base for a moment there. You couldn't even tell.
I don't even know if it's Queasy that's in danger nearly as much as what it might be Thomas HD when he tries to work his way back towards the surge base he has with Queasy. You can hear the Monarch pistol, shots flying out overhead. Thomas making his way back towards him, but he scouted it out, managed to throw up a wall just in the nick of time. Queasy also on high alert now. But Chap, Teeny, they've made enough noise. Other teams in the distance actually trying to take side shots at them.
Gotta respect Thomas HD's ability to not only see them and react faster than they can land a shot on him, but to also get up to high
Cost
ground
them nothing, too.
before it was too late. And look, they're gonna just go ahead and get off of there. They're like, wait, that team, they wanna fight? No, we don't need that. They give them the respect. They back off the restored reels. They play for center zone now. And this is a very, very good early rotate to go ahead and find a new position here, find some new real estate, if you will. Meanwhile, at the Grim Gate, we have another Rise in Yuma coming out of Asia, representing here last game. Phenomenal performance, ending up towards the top, 8 eliminations as well. This game off to a hot start with 2. Look, we look away, we blink for a second, and the double headshot onto Phaser.
The lineup is just nasty. You can just tell that Thomas HD and Queasy probably ecstatic about that loot llama they essentially just picked up from the knock.
Yeah, I don't even know if they want to cross over to pick up the loot at this point. It would end up being all too risky with King nearby, but Chap and Teeny haven't stopped their pursuits onto different duos. I'm feeling like maybe they're not getting enough tags in these fights.
Can also be so disorienting to other teams in the lobby when you're dealing with the likes of Chapentini, because they're just barreling down onto anybody that they encounter. They could care less about the caliber of player that they are dealing with in the process. All they want at the end of the day is the points from the eliminations and to clear out the space to make sure that their rotations maintain their smoothness. But Yanis, layer below, Chapentini are currently boxed up, and they are not the only ones. Kremsu, Clone, lurking overhead. Persa, Ed as well. Close enough that they could definitely tango if they wanted to.
Chapentini, 130 below. Just mentioned that they're not finding the tags, and it's very clear, regardless of how many teams they've managed to fight, it just hasn't been successful. But this, so far, looking like the best here. Double armor walls come out. That's going to slow down all of their momentum here. And if I'm being honest, I think they have to keep pursuing it, find a new angle, do something else. They can't afford to stop at this point. Teeny's got a new angle here. He's behind Pixie now. The other duo, basically, that's there is Ed and Persa, who are also very, very weak. It's just not looking good for the Brazilian duos, not looking too good for EU's Jonas.
But every
behind
time,
him, Chap's hurt. Back against the wall, he needs to find the one, and it's so close, but he's gonna be the first to fall.
Pixie kind of reminding Chap, hey, we're familiar with each other for a reason, but Jonas and Pixie, they just had too much of an advantage, knowing that the Storm Surge was trickling in, essentially. It just put too much pressure onto Chap and Teeny. They were just taking recklessly aggressive fights, not methodically calculated ones.
Reminder, Falcons, Teeny, and Chap were your first place team coming into match number 2. They are now down and out, effectively opening up the leaderboards for other teams to start to climb on up now.
Casper and Prism as well. I think that this is a duo that has really caught some pretty big attention given their recent performances in EU. Casper as well finds FKS that flashback moment, but Janus, Pixie especially is in a really rough position, trying to deal with Quanti at the same time as well, but these two know they've just got to disengage. They need an opportunity to get that mech hit off, so Pixie will find a moment here, but Quanti still good pose, pretty big threat. All depends on how Janus and Pixie actually choose to leave from this current position.
Take a look at Epic Whale Muzz right now. Also below the Storm Surge here, they just need a little tag. Bring your focus down to that bottom right, that map. We're in zone 5 out of 12, right? So we're getting into the late part of the game. Things are gonna get to real small with the circle, and it's only gonna become more and more difficult if you're one of those teams that don't have heals.
The problem is when you're also a team like Muzz and Epic, you had the shield, you had the white heals, but you're losing all of it because you're just underneath that Storm Surge. Finally, they'll manage to catch a break in the form of damage. And they'll look to try and see what they can scavenge here at the top of Rift Island. Surprisingly enough, mostly undisturbed.
Little update there as a Daphne FKS fully eliminated, so 10th place is out, 1st place is out. Cammy and Seti not looking too great right here. Below the damage threshold as well. Again, what that means is that Lightning Bolt is gonna start coming down from the sky. They're gonna start losing 25 HP over the course of time. Periodically, it'll start to add up. Flixie and Vico, this is why they're fighting all the teams, because they need to. Otherwise, they will be sent back to the lobby for not doing enough damage. Here it is. Vico gets slammed in on from 2 angles, but Cammy gets crushed by a devastating shot. Vico hits the one that he needs to. Meanwhile, Rise and Yuma jump into the mix here. This is our team in the lead here. Vico, though, is so good that he is putting up numbers up against every single region right now. It's still defending for his teammate.
He's just trying to make sure that he can throw Flixie into a safe position. Revive is clearly on his mind. Armored walls are going to be sent out. Yuma, Rise, they're hoping that they can try to collapse, but I fear the moment has left them. Vico doing so much when it mattered most to hold his ground. And sure enough, the revive is a success. Flixie has been brought back into this battle, and that's going to cause Rise and Yuma to reconsider whether they actually want to take this engagement.
And that was our current 1st and 2nd place teams basically to be going head to head. But let's jump in with Clone and Kramsu right now. Another team very, very desperate here to find a fight. Clicks and Epic Whale are the team not so desperate, but ready to defend. But no, they lose the walls first. This is not looking good. But they end up finding the shots, and Clicks is so fast. He hits one and then the second before they can even notice what happened to them.
Yeah, you know this guy's been taking some tips from Menno. I mean, he's been forming his own kind of master class at this stage.
The edit in, caught by Vino there. The trap was delayed. So good.
That's exactly the kind of bounce back too that you would hope for, especially when you consider game number 1 probably got a little bit more messy than what they'd initially intended. So moments like that can really captivate a lot of momentum for players on the big stage.
You know, you make a great point. The first game was really difficult for them. They spend a little too much time inside the storm. So look, already micro adjustments starting to come in, but Muzz and Epic Whale here. Muzz is down, or sorry, Epic Whale's down. Muzz is by himself. He finds the tags that he needs, doubles back to save his teammate as the Storm Surge was doing damage. And Vidil and Reason are recognizing, wait a second, why did you stop pushing here? Something clearly went wrong. Muzz now has to back off. I don't even think he got to pick up his teammate in time. No, Epic Whale gets finished there. And the development now for Muzz is that he is left by himself with nothing to really work with. I mean, it's all but over for him at this point if Vidil and Reason want to push.
At the same time, though, Muzz is definitely a bit of a solo mastermind. If anybody could look for a clutch opportunity, the real issue that I'm seeing right now, though, MDF, Baka, Pars, right behind where Muzz is currently fixated. And if he wants to press forward, Vidil and Reason on the other end of these walls, it's going to cost Muzz so much if he's able to escape this as far as his builds are concerned. He's already looking low on that material count.
Yeah, you saw him look through the wall. I was like, wait, what's left there? Nothing. And I think that was a mistake because now Varial and Reason can tell, wait, he's still pretty close, and they definitely know he's a weakened solo. But hey, if Muzz can stay alive, he has the zone, he'll be okay for a little bit of time. Placement points are just moments away. Take a look from the other perspective, how the damage ended up racking up there. An excellent tag by Reason, and then the Surge finishes the job there in the end. So very, very close. Had, you know, they not had that problem, they definitely were the team ahead. But here's a team that hasn't really found their footing just yet. Peterbot and Boyo trying to figure it out in match number 2 right now.
Well, you say that, but Peterbot was kind of on a rampage in our first lobby. But this time, obviously, hoping that he can do it alongside his duo, Bipoli, Kyoda. They are met with an armored wall. The moment that they try to aggress onto Pars and Baka, and be forced to drop to the low ground, seeing they could try chop out these floors from underneath, but Pars, Baka, they recognize there's too much desperation from this duo. We don't need to take any sort of risky peeks. We're just gonna stay them back.
They kind of have to, though, but no, Bipoli goes up to the box by himself. Baka and Pars are some of the best to do it, though, and they hit their tags. Literally granted a huge, huge opportunity there to get comfortable and situated in this game now. Meanwhile, Clix and Vino on a huge rotate here across the map. Talk about a night and day position to be in. Eland, material, and much more to work with right now. Clix, though, has to buy some time, get a little healthy here. Starting to run out of shields to work with, though, but still, they get time to regather themselves, to compose themselves for a moment.
The most important part was looking at both of their material counts. That is a strong build count for them to work with, and they're gonna need every bit of it, because when you look at Titans like Thomas HT and Queasy up on the high ground already, just trying to take advantageous shots, and any of these teams that are starting to trickle their way in, trying to see if they can suppress as many duos as possible to those mid and low ground layers.
Well, here it is. It seems like they've been able to catch a little bit of extra information there. Now looking for teams nearby. Bryson Bolt's going to be one of the first to go ahead and be in the line of sights here. But the zone hasn't popped just yet. They know it's got to go north. They're working their way through this build here. The cover's been blown, and they back off. Happy with the few tags, but still, they need more eliminations. Surely more placement points if they want to jump up to top 5, as those teams are still in this game. Meanwhile, Queasy still ramping his way across the high ground, right?
And that's for sure. Queasy, Thomas, they're going to try to hold on to hype for as long as possible. Ideally, the entire game, if possible, like what we saw at Chapatini in the last match. But Acorn Cold, very efficient, found a slight inside rotate despite so much congestion having pooled in the real center of that last zone. But everybody's got to get a move on now. Poyo, Peterbot just doing what they can to stay ahead of the pack. That reveal medallion as well, going to help them pinpoint some of these solos that might be running through these pre-existing builds.
Yeah, those extra layers right there. But look at this, Clix and Vino catching up with a tear there. Peterbot and Boyo find Yuma as well, effectively taking down some of that immediate competition, right? You want to start dropping those players that are up at the top of the standings if you want to jump over them. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very hard to do, but they are doing just that. Meanwhile, the wider shot tells us the whole story. There's an indestructible bridge separating the high ground layers from the lows.
And Pico, Flixie, they didn't manage to find the victory royale the way that they would have hoped in match 1. And now, staring down their own demise here. Flixie gonna get knocked. Vico not gonna have an opportunity either to recover this one. Just too much pre-existing pressure. But Peterbot could go massive here. Acorn's gonna get caught out, and Peterbot gets the shutdown.
Oh, but someone comes from behind, and down goes Peterbot. Just like that, it's Cold to the rescue basically here, making up for lost time there. And at the end of the day, the real winner here is Cold. He gets more placement points. He gets to heal out now and kind of wait this one out. Meanwhile, Clix is still alive here, working his way through the game. Queasy and Thomas make their way up to the Rift Island. They are looking better than ever. There is so much material to farm back up here as well.
It's looking next to impossible for anybody to try and effectively challenge for high MDF, but we see crazy things happen. Clicks, on the other hand, alongside of Benno, they're gonna fall back to back. Trulex and Chicho now seeing if they can try and finagle their way into that top leaderboard placements. Fadil's gonna be the next one they knock. Reason forced to play this one out as a solo.
Game 2 already looking kind of crazy. Reason takes down Stash there, and he gets to secure the med kit. That's a
Cypher
huge
medallion.
pick up right there. The medallion as well to give him that little bit of extra push here. And look at that. Of all the players that came into the game inside the top 5, Chicho and Trulix are one of the only ones standing here now. With 8 eliminations, they have ran their way up the standings and put themselves into this incredible conversation of a team to look out for right now. Rise and Agers, a great performance. Booga and Rapid show up and get put down, and now it's a top 3, but it's just Pars and Baka down here. Queasy and Thomas have all the time in the world.
Queasy and Thomas are sitting like kings right now at height, just watching all this catastrophe unfold underneath. Chicho, Trulex, they know they've got to deal with this team on high ground. All you see is the armored walls stacked in the sky. Trulex gonna opt for the medkit play instead, hope that he can outlast Baka in the process. But again, at the end of the day, he's just staring down Queasy and Thomas on height.
They're starting to look down here. They're starting to put some tags in. They see what's going on. It's just a matter of moments. 8 eliminations for Queasy and Thomas. They look up, who's trying to land on us? And of course, it's the one and only coming out the storm, Baka there, who just went with a desperate play. Meanwhile, Trulex down low. If he starts to focus in here, he falls so fast. And Baka has high ground now. This is a little scary, but the tag is so good for Queasy.
And the incredible part about it still, MDF, Queasy already had the record for most victory royales in FNCS finals, but he extends that from 25 to now 26 with this last victory royale. Incredible stuff. I want to hear more for what Ada has to say.
That's right, yeah. Would you please give it up for Thomas HD and Queasy? Pop up for me, fellas. Everyone wants to see those faces. Let me see those faces. You know, 8 eliminations, a great start to proceedings there. Queasy, I mean, what is it like playing with someone like Thomas? He's got the eye of the tiger. He sees things that no one else sees.
I don't have to worry about Surge. I literally did like 200 damage that game, and we were 600 above or something, so it's pretty easy.
I mean, Thomas, you've been there. You've got almost every single T-shirt for the FNCS Global Championships. That would be the icing on the cake. Game 2, it's now yours. What have you felt out there so far? What do you feel in the lobby and players around you that are kind of causing you a bit of concern?
I mean, it's like really nice to play on the stage again. Like, we only have like 2 lands a year, so yeah. I'm just happy we won a game, like, and we can prove ourselves finally.
I'm seeing as well, Queasy. I mean, there's a lot of fans out here. Hey, you guys cheering you guys' names all the time. Let them hear Fort Worth, Queasy and Thomas HD. Let them hear you. Come on. How does it feel to compete as well in front of an audience like this as well? Obviously, there's 10 games left, but are you embracing every second of this alongside your partner?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I got some important people in the audience that told me that I should go height and not die, and that's what I did, and we won the game.
Okay, I'd love to see it. And one more time, would you please, Fort Worth, give it up for your Game 2 winners, Thomas and Queasy! Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel good here in the Raw? You guys have been amazing. You guys at home as well have been fantastic. A quick break from us again here on the main show, but do not go anywhere. There's loads more coming away. 4 more games today. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone, to the FNCS Global Championship. We just wrapped up game number 2. Queasy, Thomas, HD get themselves the victory royale. And on top of that, 10 eliminations. They are looking for that Global Championship title. We interviewed them. You saw the confidence. They're here to play.
Well, Zeke, you went ahead and said on top of that. What about being on top of the lobby, Levin? I mean, Queasy, typical. Finding himself up on the higher ground. But the most impressive thing for me that game is, it's been very, very hard throughout the entirety of the year to play these metas from 8th zone, maintain the higher ground throughout the entirety of the end game, but they did it.
I mean, look, you say typical, but if you've been watching the EU this year, it's not been typical of Queasy, right? This year, we've had to suffer and watch Queasy do this whole willing to see him up on high. I think everybody expected to see them sort of be playing on all sorts of layers today, but seeing them up there, right, they looked comfortable. They looked like they're in their element. All throughout this game, Thomas HD, another level when it came to shots he was able to hit, and you saw them just wiping out people below in this game. A top game from Queasy and Thomas.
Just wild to consider, right? Like the fact that they took height around like 8th zone and they just held it, and no one thinks about contesting them. They head on over to Rift Island, flying above. They're like, hey, we don't even have to build. And if anything happens, we've got launch pads out if something were to go crazy. Them getting this victory out is very, very scary, right? Because now they're kind of setting a precedent. You give us high ground, you give us a victory royale.
Starting to see the effect, right, of some of the other teams be impacted earlier on in the game, right? Like, we haven't really seen a Peterbot and Pollo alive in either one of these first 2 games yet, right? We know Clix and Veno also struggling throughout that early game, not really able to find their footing either, which are typical names that we might see go up there or apply pressure. But right now, I mean, when they find themselves up there, if there's no pressure being applied, it might be a little too easy for them.
I mean, I think the great thing for Queasy and Thomas here is that, of course, a lot of people saw that they were going to be landing towards that southeast, and they wondered, landing at that base, are they really going to be able to cook, especially with far zones, right? This zone pulled all the way across the map, and we saw that they were able to play out of that spot with relative ease, causing problems in the mid-game, really nice surge-based positioning as well. They clearly have a game plan locked in here that seems to be working, Zeke.
Absolutely, and we actually have a listen-in from that moment on height. So let's take a look at this.
Spring.
You don't have a dash?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
1 or 2. I can't
74? Pulls far. I'm single layering. We're gonna have to dash and fight though. Top 3. 2 duos. Maybe we fizz and drop down right now. We fizz and drop down right now for sure. I have armored still.
Bring that top.
Yeah.
I'm dropping late, okay?
Yeah.
Down late. I have no ammo. Can we drop it open or what?
Yeah, okay. Well, we can...
Fizz.
Okay. Yeah. Fight this guy, yeah.
Look up,
Kill last one, yeah.
Get high, don't die! Get high, don't die! Come on, man. It's too easy. Bro. It's too easy.
You heard it. Get hyped, don't die. That's all their concerns. Just 2 things. We got to do this game. And man, just to see and like get to hear those comms is really special, because we kind of get a little sneak peek into how they're choosing to operate. So calm, right? Very little comms. They're not like, hey, we're top 2. Don't freak out. Don't panic. It's just like, hey, here's the information. Top 2. Let's drop. Let's do this.
I mean, it was a great example of just the dynamics of that team, right? Queasy with very clear communication, that strong leadership. That's why he's considered one of the best IGLs this game's ever seen. But still having the trust in Thomas. When Thomas made a call and said, I want to do this, let's do this, following that and sticking to that, committing to that, great teamwork.
Resource management, planning out the rest of the game before it even happens. But that little thing that I saw at the end there, you saw Thomas, he was editing out the floor. So that way the tarps above them actually would fall, right? They would break away. So that way Baka had nothing to kind of land on that was actually inside of the zone. Took away every single advantage possible from the competitors.
Those little things, right? Those little nuanced decision makings, so incredible. We saw there in the first place. Trulix and Chicho in first place by a massive margin there. And to think in this, they picked up 8 eliminations, right? So remember, we don't always need the victory royale. That helps, but if we're placing top 3 with 8 elims, y'all better look out.
Listen, me and Levin, we were sitting down in the practice area yesterday. Shout out to Reed, was having a little bit of a conversation, and he was like, Trulix and Chicho, they're just so annoying. They just build ramps up, they get all of the storm surge in the world. It's just so random, and to see them make it into the end game is really no surprise when you kind of take that sort of strategy into account.
I think the big surprise here for anyone that's familiar with Trulix and Chicho is they're not the type of team you want to see or expect to see having 9 eliminations, right? There's a low elimination players, they play out their mats really well, they play out their med kits like we saw them do there, right? had the free med kits. Once they ran out of the mats in the end game, you play your med kits, clutch up some extra placement points. But if they're going to be able to do that, Zeke, popping off and getting high elimination games, we could see them repeat the success they had last year at the Global Championships.
That is so crazy. And a final thing here to call out Peterbot once again in a situation he's left as a solo. This game, though, was a little bit different from them. They were kind of in shambles there, which is a little bit uncharacteristic.
Yeah, I think still kind of finding the necessary amount of surge, I think, towards the later part of the game, right? I know we tuned in with them towards the earlier zones, like 3rd and 4th, and their storm surge seemed very, very fine. But as you can see right there, a little bit of struggles led to some material deficiency right there, and just the fight going for that. Pollo goes down, and yeah, again, Peterbot kind of left as a solo, but we've kind of seen those performances throughout the year with Peterbot, and these are the type of games that Peterbot pulls out the enough points to kind of hang on for the duo.
Exactly.
The worst it gets.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Love to see it. Guys, we want to talk more, but we're getting right back into action. There's more Battle Bus action to go. So this is game number 3. Casters, up to you.
Thank you guys so much. And yeah, MDF, we are approaching the halfway point here in day 1. But what's even crazier to consider is still, sure, it's match 3, but tomorrow, 6 more games to work with and a 1.5 times point multiplier.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where teams start to hit the drawing board. I mean, Vino has expressed this before to us in his interviews. Day 2 is always the hardest, especially for players like him that focus so heavily into that day 1 prep. So this foundation that has to get built here and now is extremely important. Let's jump on the Battle Bus one more time.
And just like that, match number 3 is upon us. The Battle Bus is departing one more time here today. And I think also, MDF, one thing we're really going to get a chance to see is how the micro adjustments continue to unfold, because at this stage, you really want to make sure you're setting yourself up for the best recipe for success heading into day 2. But this halfway mark could really be the telling tale.
Yeah, and we're kind of jumping back to match 1 vibes right here. Cal Gamer, Haman versus CZB and Nathan. They won the first fight, kind of fizzled out the second. This one now is all up to Cal right here. Cal finds the first tag and no duo in sight yet. Kind of runs off to a safe spot. Very smart position to put him in. Meanwhile, Nathan has more time to go ahead and start healing up, but no material. We all know Fortnite's a game of builds and attrition, and if you have the mats, you usually have the fight in the bag. Cal Gamer comes on top for the Middle East.
That is a big clutch opportunity there for Cal Gamer, because him and Amon definitely need to start rebuilding a little bit more in terms of that leaderboard. But again, they're not the only ones with that vision in mind. Merstash, Malibuka, Restored Reels one more time. Oshi, Worthy, and Alex. I love seeing them lurk in the horizon, but the way that they've chosen to split that POI is pretty interesting.
I want to see more Worthy perspective in Alex there, but we have to see what's happening here between Oshi and Middle East here. This is a really big fight for FKS and Adapter, whom are winning at the moment. Tinka goes down, Daneth is down as well, and FKS and Adapter collapse from both angles so perfectly. Look at it from Adapter's perspective, just catches him in the nest there, in the danger web, and it is over before they can even put down a build.
Have to love that supportive fire coming in as well. Perfect timing. Phaser and King, though, slight world of hurt here. Phaser trying to do what he can, but at the same time, we'll have to just check back in with him, see how he manages as a solo for the time being, because we've got action heating up here at Restored Reels. So many medkits getting tossed out, but Merstash and Malibuka manage to take this one over yet again. 2 eliminations in the bag, plenty of heals to work with as well, so they'll be able to recuperate nicely.
Take a look from Merstash's perspective there. He lands a great tag onto Worthy so fast. Then Malibuka finishes off Alex, who's a little weak there. Almost finishes Malibuka even with the HP disadvantage, proving that he definitely had the better shot, but just gonna come up short there. Meanwhile, Threats and Trashy have gone up against Peterbot and Boy, and you can see the results of that. Not very good for Trashy at the moment, but Man City Threats, if it's one thing that we know, is that he's a veteran of North America. He's gonna stick around and try to put down some numbers here.
know a lot of players, definitely big fans of that thermal scope as well, but it's going to take more than 1 or 2 nice shots for Threats to work his way out of this position. Keep in mind, he's still possibly going to get sandwiched here if he's not careful. Peterbot Pollo still close enough that they could continue to play spoiler there for Threats. The Yapko and Swizzy also on the wraparound here. They're going to choose to just try and work their way through Charon's Crossing. Not really interested in sticking around.
Garrison Shari, center zone right now, chasing down Phaser. Phaser gets inside the tunnel. We've seen some very fun plays go down here, but this dynamic not too exciting. And I mean, it's just simple math, right? There's only so many places you can be. Kiros takes down Shari. They already took down King, and that's going to be quick wraps for that duo. Meanwhile, on the other side, Queasy and Thomas HD right now, very much situated, coming off of the victory royale. No one, just like no one in sight either, right? Very, very comfortable as far as the spacing is concerned right now.
Hey, we already heard what the comm sounded like for Queasy and Thomas and what their intention is as far as the matches here today. Just get height, don't get eliminated. It's as simple as that, or at least it sounds like it on paper, but taking height in the first place is the real challenge.
It's so easy, right? Just do it, basically, is what Queasy's trying to say here. Keep the mentality locked in, and they do just that. And honestly, I think the more important insight, how much he depends and relies on Thomas HD, knowing that, hey, Surge, we got it covered. I have one of the best duelists, right? Like in the game right here, in the world. Thomas HD, no stranger to hitting those shots when they matter. Meanwhile, Flixie and Vico, they have to make up for that shortcoming in game number 2, falling in the mid game.
Yeah, and it's all gonna pop off here yet again by the Forecast Tower. One that's situated in between Reckless Railway, Mount Olympus, and realistically, Bryce Bolts, you have to keep in mind, Ifanazen is their backyard, and that's exactly what they're after. They find Job and Michael trying to just sneak around the low ground, but it's not gonna work this time as Bolts and Bryce find their first elimination. That's a nice amount of surge damage as well, so they can afford now to stay engaged in this fight for the Forecast Tower in comparison to maybe Vico, Flixie, depending on what their surge tags might look like.
Yeah, and you know, Job and Michael had that strategy. They were to come in with this surprise contest, and it just seems like things are a little difficult for them. But Swizzy and Jopko, right, talking about coming over insurmountable difficulties just to make it this far. Swizzy finding his footing here. He's gonna take down Ping and Wox. Just one of the 2 for now, but still, elimination starting to fall their way. These are critical points now for the tournament standings. On the other side, Clix and Vino make it out of the drop. And now they're on their way to the north side of the zone here. Still cold, so dangerous on the outskirts here.
Cold making sure to just use the natural terrain, keep himself as concealed as possible. But again, Clix and Vino are more than aware of just how much attention the Forecast Tower is bound to draw towards them and their initial rotates, but it seems as if Veno and Clix were a little bit more fixated on trying to deal with Shari, Kiros, but now having to look back because of the tags that came into play from Fold and Acorn, and Sherry probably a little bit happy about having some of that pressure alleviated temporarily.
I saw Vino saying, wait, is that a solo rotating back here? So he's a little bit more keen now to rotate towards that duo. Nice find on the Cactus here. This map awareness from Clix and Vino, given that this is their natural terrain, is flexing right now. But Geras and Shari, they let up the pedal a little bit, and all of a sudden now they're perched up above them. Flixie and Vico here do not want to give this one up here, though. They have chased Michael into the storm, who Michael just wants to save his teammate Job, but no, he's pushed the wrong way. First through Bryce and Bolts, now through Vico and Flixie, and just like that, it's over.
One of the beauties of LAN, I wish you guys could have witnessed it. Vico's mom getting a chance to see him in action, just shouting the moment that they find those eliminations. Love to see that kind of cheer forward. As Reet and Ritual, they're gonna depend on each other here, trying to power through the likes of Toyota and Mipoli, but Ritual, he's lost his shields entirely, has more than enough to recover though, but what he needs is for Reet to continue to buy him time. So much pressure both Mipoli and Kyoto choosing to take the same angle, at least for right now, but that could provide the wiggle room opportunity here for Reet and Ritual to get a wraparound effect.
Really get to lock in right now. Asia has had quite the appearance so far. As I'm looking at the standings on the side, but things are starting to get updated here. I'm seeing teams fall, players and teams get eliminated as things continue to develop here. And talk about Asian teams in the distance, you have Zagu up close, you have Bobby getting closer and closer. So it's almost like Re and Ritual are just getting surrounded by this entire region here.
And it's not just Asia either. If I'm not mistaken, it looked like Bugha and Aviv are also kind of moseying their way over towards this action taking place by the weapon bunker, but Reet shredding through Mipoli's shield. Not enough to crack him just yet, but still forcing him back. It's clear that Reet and Ritual just want box control, take over the space overlying that bunker so they can make sure that they defend it with their own builds.
Well, Kyoto and Mipoli trying to situate themselves for the first stab at the bunker. Bobby and Larpex trying to do the same there as they lurk nearby. On the other side, though, high ground here for center zone, looking for any teams off in the distance. Chicho and Trulix, the surprise pop-up in that end game last round, really showing up for themselves there. Team Falcon and Valiant.
If he hits someone,
proud of that one.
If he hits someone from right there, man.
Ooh.
Okay, Chicho, we understand. The Monarch pistol, clearly one of your preferences for a reason, but still, I don't expect Chicho and Trulix to leave this position anytime soon. This is their bread and butter. Surge base up, take control of teams that are going to be forcibly rotating from those outskirt positions on their drops, and just funnel, control the way that they're actually moving on the map.
Oh, look at this. Unfortunately, second place Rise and Yuma now down and out. Once again, opening things up for a second there, but so far, that Asian team has put up quite the performance, right? Representing for their region. That's really the best part about this. We play all year to get the best players from every region globally together in one space to compete against each other. What a flagship event here, but on the other side, Vico and Flixie continuing the story here. They have the bunker now.
Probably rather content as well, knowing that they could take their time, but there is another team starting to approach their position, but it might just be a duo that's gliding overhead. Doesn't seem like they're gonna bother stopping or recognizing the fact even that there's a duo still lingering inside of this weapons bunker. Chapentini, on the other hand, dealing with the likes of Baka and Pars, outskirts of restored reels, and this could be a rather dangerous position because keep in mind, Trulix, Chicho, they've got a surge base nearby as well. They could look for prime third-party opportunities, get some good tags in here.
Chapentini now on the run here from Baka and Pars. Smart disengage given that low ground terrain is going to be a lot more difficult to play from. Baka and Pars, honestly not in such a strong position themselves. 28 builds is nothing for a player like Baka, especially in this type of lobby. He really has to start to, piecemeal something together, or their end game is it's going to crumble. It's going to crumble fast.
Part of the problem for Baka and Pars, though, is that landing by the ship at station, their intent is to try and make a play for one of the forecast towers. We've seen them throughout the majors in the regular seasons, right? And they've tried to consistently make plays for forecast, but they've got to deal with the likes of Peterbot, Poya, who are also making rotates, and it can be difficult for Baka and Pars as well to just maintain their map position because they have so many teams kind of surrounding them, looking to cut them off at every position.
Although it's only game 3, I do want to hit the VODs and see what's going on with Batman, Bugha, and Rapid there, as they haven't quite really popped off up to the expectations. But hold up, Rift Island now officially secured by Baka and Pars. This is honestly a very, very good pickup here if they, of course, can get the loot, but an elimination would be even better. Teeny gets hurt in the process here. Chap secures the high position here in defense for his teammate. Singles out Baka. Baka down to just wood builds. They need to get some of the outskirts here. And already Chap and Teeny secure the center of course, what will be the cachet, right? All the loot that's gonna go in and spawn out of that.
The capture point could be a really big advantage here for Chapentini as well. Bakapars recognize more than anything else, they need to try and rebuild their material count. Granted, Rift Island can definitely provide, at the very least, ample amounts of bricks, but that's only if they're not disturbed in the process. And it seemed as if there are a couple more duos trying to make their way towards top of the Rift Island. Venom Clicks also still hanging out inside of the Storm. Comes as no surprise, though, really, when you consider the fact they like to stick in the Storm a little bit longer than some of these other teams. They're usually pretty consistent about getting those surge type damages, but they can also be very dependent on the vending machine to accrue the heals to make sure that they can afford this time inside Storm.
Vending machine makes a massive difference. Bunkers make a massive difference as well as far as having the heals. To string together a strategy like this, Cammy and Seti clearly have a stronghold on their area. They're playing deep into the Storm, and this is, again, a team that is no stranger to staying in the Storm on these invitationals, on these LAN events, right? Like, we've seen it happen every single time. They almost welcome the Storm, right? To stay away from the other opponents there.
Cammy and Seti, they were probably cheesing the moment that they found out the hover jets wouldn't be an option for players, because everyone knows, historically speaking, they perform incredibly well, if not possibly even best, during these no mobility or low mobility metas. So comes as no surprise, really, they were able to find their surge damage, a little bit to work with at least, dead-side rotations, but Malabuka Merstash, jam-packed action potentially here at Restored Reels. Finding some decent shots, but more important aspect still is that Casper and Prism are under some heavy pressure. Those Storm Surge tags trickling in now might cost them all their splashes.
82 below. Pressure starting to rise here. Giannis gets pushed in, drops down to low ground. Just letting the Storm Surge kind of do its thing here for now. But Casper doesn't stop. He eggs on solo here into the wall of Pixie and Giannis. We've seen what happened to duos before. It normally doesn't end well. Malabuka and Merstash also lurking nearby, hearing what's happening here.
And again, you can technically out-sustain the damage that's dealt, but 25 a tick, not to mention the other teams taking notes, shooting at you as well. Shield crack has gone out. That might be the go sign here for Giannis and Pixie. They recognize the fact, though, this duo looking a little bit too desperate for him. Merstash, Malabuka instead gonna strike from behind. Casper, Prism, they were so fixated on Giannis and Pixie, they had no idea the real threat that awaited directly behind them.
Yeah, now Merstash and Malabuka have nothing to worry about. They have so much damage. The refresh is there. They're going to be fully focused in on likely getting to the new line of the Storm here shortly. And they saw, like, you know, this team was fighting another team, so clearly they're very much aware. But wait a second, Pixie knocks on the wrong door. This is a full duo. Little did he know, he was likely thinking this was what was left of the other team that was just there, and Giannis falls for being out of position now. Merstash and Malabuka really racking up the eliminations this game.
Devious work there by Merstash and Malabuka, though. The way that they were able to separate Giannis and Pixie in that moment. Keep in mind, Pixie definitely still trying to do what he can, but yeah, that is just some very tactical play coming out of Malabuka and Merstash. Their chemistry definitely aligned. Pixie still trying to do what he can, but Malabuka and Merstash, they know it's a solo hidden somewhere amongst the rubble of these pre-existing builds. Pixie trying to hope that he can maintain a little bit better position, but he's just getting shredded. The builds are not going to withstand all the shots coming in. Malabuka and Merstash with yet another elimination. 807 damage above as well. They can take their sweet time now on the rotates.
And you see it from Merstash's perspective onto Casper. Say, huge shot there in the replay. Very well executed. Well, that's going to set themselves up for success. They have nothing to worry about other than get to Storm now. For Vino and Clicks, a little bit of a different story here. Still a successful game nonetheless. 2 elims, plenty of material to work with, especially in Clicks' reservoir here. However, the damage will start to become a problem soon. But talk about problems here. Kanata's got a big one. He's got XZ Trashy on the other side of the wall. And no teammate, Cooper, who is the returning champion from last year, paired up with Kanata right now, is now found himself watching Kanata having to root from the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, the Ship-It station has just been fully skeletonized at this point. All the walls practically torn down. Other player builds replacing them, but Kanata has done a decent job, at least at forcing Trashy back. And in fact, Trashy so low, Kanata not going to be able to get the outright elimination just yet, but he's hunting it down. Trashy just hoping that he can buy himself a little bit more time, and Kanata's got to be careful, because Queasy and Thomas, they're also nearby.
We already know Queasy and Thomas have the confidence coming off that last game. Big rotate coming out on the other side, though. It's Agers and Rise who are on the move right now. Rise going to be the first to fall in this exchange here to the hands of Bolt. It seems Bolts and Bryce to get the elimination credit here. And Bolt and Bryce are holding on just barely. And Bryce willing to stay in the storm. He needs these materials, trying to pick up what he can here to go in and get himself a foundation to work with. And this is a congested side of the storm. Look at how many teams, how many players are sitting around this general area.
This is a lot of our northeast-based teams as well. And Bryce, at least with that refresh on the material count, he's going to be able to at least dictate which direction he wants to head next. Might be able to protect himself on the disengage as well. Agers, though, might not find himself in a similar fashion. Still, the armored wall will at least prompt a forcible disengage for the time being. Everyone recognizing the fact they've got to scale over this hillside as they approach the raft.
Well, time to make a decision. Agers goes for the fight. And now he's in the storm, but a tag is going to set him off here. The clock is ticking here. Just a couple moments left, and he jumps onto Muzz and Epic Whale. Tries to go for the axe through the wall, but instead delivers the loot to the hands of Muzz and Epic Whale, who really needed that, but the storm ends up doing the rest there on this back edge. And it's just one problem after another now since match one for Epic Whale and Muzz here. It's going to be difficult to ask Epic to do much more at this point, given the situation.
Epic just hoping that he can survive, but that dream is shut down instantaneously. Just down from a distance, and not much left to do except sit and wait for match number 4 to begin. Trulex, on the other hand, though, no Chicho again. Some of our teams that are just trying to lead, unfortunately finding themselves in these compromised positions. If Trulex goes down now, MDF, that's going to be a heavy hit to placement points.
Yeah, definitely will set them back, given that they set themselves up with such a strong position now after that first game. Obviously coming in with a little bit of a lead, but how long can that lead last when you have people like Peterbot and Boyo putting sights on you? And looking at that update there, Cold and Acorn are down. Yuma and Rise are also down. This match 3, almost a defining moment for some teams here that had a real chance to break away, but as all things balance here, it's almost like we're brought down to reality. So Trulex, really the only player now in the lobby that has a 30-point gap, but for how much longer?
He's just trying to stay as concealed as possible and hopefully connect.
An elimination, really?
Yet again, Dukes now forced to play this one out as a solo. His box gonna get collapsed upon. Pico, though, loses Quixie. Another one of our teams in the top 5 wiped out.
That is actually going to be very, very important for everyone who's on the bubble now, looking to jump up into that top 5 spot. And even better for the likes of Peterbot and Boyo, who are very much there. Thomas, HD, and Queasy, who have been running their way up the standings here. Look at this late rotate, allowing them to have this much visual. Not even need to build walls on the side is a sign of confidence on its own.
Look at this Thomas now. He was just taking shots at the lobby leader. He's still got his sights set onto Trulex. Might have even identified him as a solo, but they're going to find themselves chopped. Malabuka, Merstash now trying to make their approach towards Queasy and Thomas. Meanwhile, Peterbot, Boyo, they're currently sitting inside of top 3, 3rd place to be specific, and they're going to instantaneously take over the hill. Prime position, also catching shots, tags, connecting onto Queasy. But the hill height is the real W here.
Well, I hate to call it early, but it is not looking good for the lobby if you're rooting against Peterbot and Boyo right now, as they have got themselves the natural elevation, the material count, and the base already set up. Meanwhile, Queasy finds himself in a bad rotate there, taken down. No elims earned this game. No chance that Thomas can survive there if he doesn't fight his way up. He doesn't even have mats here, the shield bubble, the saving grace, but also the flare to the lobby. Hey, I'm over here.
There's only so much that Thomas can do from this current position. And first, he's got to break through Yapko, and Swizzy throws out the shield bubble. It's his last hope at this point, hoping that there isn't a duo underneath him, but unfortunately, he won't even get a chance to reconsider where he wants to go next. Peterbot and Pollo more than content to take the shutdown.
And they're the team up top, looking down on the rest of the lobby here. Other NA players still here, Reet and Ritual. But you have EU's Huddy on the front side with Kovacs there. Peterbot looking down, putting tags onto the roofs of these builds. Huddy and Kovacs have 7 eliminations, but very little material now. It's gonna get super scrappy down here. They're in that conversation of top 5 here, though, as they've managed to nearly fight their way into a top position now. But things are slowing down. Everyone really thinking about what the next move's gonna be, what's best for their situation here in the tournament. Merstash, Malabuka look up, they say no. Peterbot and Pollo are still there.
Huddy and Kovacs, they're actually gonna opt to play from inside Storm. Now they're gonna make their move, but they're so late on this rotate. Peterbot and Pollo are bound to catch wind of this. Immediately, the shots rain in. Kovacs trying to scurry around, but he won't escape. There's too much pressure. Peterbot too accurate as well. Another duo life getting flamed here in the mix. Merstash, Malabuka now caught wind of Reet. Unfortunately, front side of zone is not going to be controlled by Reet and Ritual much longer. Malabuka, Merstash here to play.
Yeah, and they did all that for a top 5, right? Look at how slow things have gone here because everyone wants placement points. But the problem is now you're giving Peterbot and Pollo so much more time to decide about how they basically want to win this game here.
Ritual still trying to work his way through. He's crouching, he's breaking the builds, but Peterbot and Pollo MDF, I hate to call it early, but they are looking primed to take over here in match 3. Unless Merstash and Malabuka have something to say about it. Currently contesting Yapko and Swizzy. This could be a massive refresh for builds.
Swizzy and Yapko, 8 elims. What a monstrous game for them here. Top 3, breaking his way through the builds here. He still has a lot of gas in the tank here to work with, but Malabuka and Merstash put up such a strong defense there. A great tag onto Merstash to go on and set things up, but he steps in now. It's time to throw it all down. It's all or nothing. Right hand peek here for Merstash is going to work well. Peterbot and Pollo jump down from the high ground to go ahead and get in the mix. One of those goes to them. Merstash is down. Malabuka's down. 2v2. All they got to do now is find the last shot, and Pollo, hungrier than ever, is going to get one. They just need the second now.
Peterbot, Pollo, they're tracking him down. Swizzy staring just a layer above. Pollo's gonna fall though. This could be massive. Swizzy could actually take it, but Peterbot trying to shut that tree down. Peterbot, oh my God, is all he needs. Swizzy takes it home.
Peterbot and Pollo get taken down to the hands of Swizzy. Phenomenal job here in the end. Just when you thought it was over, just when you thought he didn't have a chance, they clutched it up. They pulled through.
I have to put a little bit more respect onto Swizzy's name here. Keep in mind, he's a powerhouse player coming out of EU, but Adam, close on sight.
Thank you so much. Give it up for your Game 3 winners! Swizzy, wow. That was that one-on-one. Peterbot there, right at the very end. You managed to start that out perfectly, but walk us through the final stages, how that all went down.
I don't know, like, it was actually not as hard.
Not as hard, not as hard. Peterbot and Pure have been very strong throughout the competition so far, but Yapko, you guys are looking very good too. Walk us through the first 3 games of this competition. How has it felt for you two as a duo? Is everything panning out as you expected?
Yeah, we just adapted very good, I think, and we're just playing our game. I think it's pretty good. I'm pretty confident we can play good.
Obviously, we've got a bit of a halftime break now. What do you guys do behind the scenes? Do you kind of go over tactics, strategy? How do things go now? Or do you just rest and relax for a second?
Yeah, we're just gonna take some break, like relax and think about the next 3 games.
And I'm going to ask you as well, watching that at the end there, you watched Swizzy in that one-on-one. Are you feeding anything through on the comms then, or are you just keeping quiet and just letting him do his thing?
I mean, I'm just calling behind him, you know? I'm just telling him everything. Because I was still alive, so I could see everything on my screen.
Love to see that. One more time, give it up for Swizzy and Yapko, everyone! Thank you very much, guys. Now, obviously, you know that I've got a voice of an angel, okay? No one booked me for the halftime show. I can't believe it. I'm devastated. I don't hold grudges, but I actually blame Zeke. I could have done a repertoire of my Fortnite Festival classics, and I couldn't do it. Zeke, I blame you. It's over to you, buddy.
That's okay, Adam. You can blame me. Most people do. My gosh, Swizzy here. You could tell in the moment that like Swizzy's in like almost like a state of shock. Like he was literally shaking. And it's because he 1v2s Peterbot and Pollo. How many people in that exact situation? You're literally just like, it's that's it. These are the guys that I don't want to be fighting. This is it, the final moments of the game. And he answers the 1v2.
One of those games that you go ahead and you're like, yeah, this one's over.
We all thought.
Peterbot and Pollo, yeah, they got it, right? Up on the higher ground, and then it comes down to the 1v2, and it's like, yeah, they got it. And yeah, I don't know, Swizzy just hitting incredible shots from the low ground. Peterbot just not having everything reloaded right there at the end. Makes all the difference.
We are in the Swizzy era, man. I can't believe it's taken us so long to see this player on the big stage. And if this is what we've been missing out on, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see what we have in store. This guy has been performing at the highest level of Fortnite for about a year now, right? We saw towards the end of last year in Chapter 4 just how impressive he was when he won FNCS with Putrick. We wanted to see him at Globals. Unfortunately, we couldn't. Even this year, they qualified. They've been dominating EU. We couldn't see him with Vanya, and we thought, oh my goodness, I mean, cool, we get to see him, but it's not going to be the full power duo we thought we would. But Swizzy and Yapko been looking good, man, and Swizzy in particular, shining as always.
I just cannot believe that 10 eliminations onto that duo. And again, on the flip side, right, we still have to give props to Peterbot and Pollo.
Yeah, right.
They just absolutely dominated that game for so long. And those final few moments, right, when there's 3 duos remaining, you just wait. You're like, okay, when they start to fight at the bottom, we look to strike. Unfortunately, though, Swizzy was on the other side.
Yeah, this was actually one of those games that Peterbot and Pollo pretty much secured second place, or it, could have been that victory royale way earlier than that. It was actually the 6th to 7th zone pool where everybody was actually northeast of Grimgate, but then the zone pulled southwest. It pulled all over that green river that gave everybody the dashes. But the difference there was that Peterbot and Pollo, they actually saved those dashes for 9th zone. Once they were able to rotate in the 9th zone, they used those dashes. They got ahead of Queasy and Thomas. They built up on the hill, and they had high ground for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and like you said, from there, you just expect it to be easy street. And for the most part, it was. Unfortunately, those final moments, we know just how tough they can be. But it's such a great sign for Peterbot and Pollo. Right? We just talked the game before this about how, look, those games we saw earlier are probably some of the worst games we'll see them have. And yet they were still racking in big points. It only gets better from here.
Yep. We got to take this to a listen in from those few moments because that was just a crazy run from Peterbot and Pollo. Let's take a look.
All right. We can get all left and get high. We can get all left and get high. Come. Come. 35. They're looking. 30.
Look here. No bills.
Yeah. Got it. We're good. 13 alive, by the way. Everyone's stacked.
Yeah,
I think everyone's stacked. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going. Yeah. Just look at the team's friend.
I'm looking. Duo. They drop.
It's this team right here. This 60. No bills.
360 wood. Give me coin.
Yeah.
Give me coin. Right here.
He's reloading. Nice.
Always great to actually listen into the comms. 11, we were actually having a conversation about Peterbot's comms. You were listening to them over at EWC. Compared to there, what's the comparison?
I mean, at times, right, in some of those games, you maybe was getting a bit quiet. I remember some of his teammates on the key, they were complaining, you got to talk a bit more to us, Peterbot. The communication, much more in his element here on this big stage.
Nice. I love to see there in those final few moments as well. In that situation where they made that beautiful little rotate up the hill, right? At that point, second place, they're gone. And now they're thinking, okay, we have an opportunity here. We can really look to pull away. And again, just kind of telling the lobby, we are on height. You're not going to get to play the game. But when we're ready, we'll go ahead and pick you all up at the bottom.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, they're in first place. No surprises there. I think it's interesting how even with their success, if we're going to be critical here, I think we're seeing the effects of the whole Raft situation where they're not getting that whole POI to themselves. It feels like in some of the NAF and CSs this year, they would have gotten a POI like that all to themselves and been able to run with it, have cap loot. But the lack of loot, you'd argue, means, again, he doesn't have as much ammo, he can't spray as much towards that back end. When he runs out of shotgun ammo, he can't switch to his AUG, right, and use that. Small, fine margins, but it's, you know, causing a difference here. But if they're going to stay in first place, I mean, he's not going to be too bothered at the end of the day.
I mean, I'm happy you actually brought up the point of the Wrap, because that game we actually saw something a little bit different. For first 2 games, it was very, very passive. No elims were kind of happening over there. But this game, Peterbot actually picked up Trashy very, very early on. So that could be the adaptation that they're kind of looking for to make sure they just get that extra little bit of an edge coming out of the Wrath.
And Cammy, right? They also find another impact over on Cammy to just disrupt them and their plan. So just crazy. Malabuka Mustache as well, 3rd in that last game. Dude, I don't know. Like, think back to game 1. Malabuka Mustache just had this horrible game. They're just shambles the entire time. They're going down in zone. They're picking each other up. And now they come out swinging 3rd place with just an unbelievable performance.
Well, Malabuka and Mustache, that game number 3 right there, they actually took it to Alex and Rory. They elammed them very, very early on. But they didn't leave their POI. They did not leave reels at all, right? It was remained in the zone. And I think they picked up like 3 more eliminations from the POI alone, just picking up stragglers, picking up rotators. So awesome to see that they're very, very familiar around that POI, so much so that they can find elims even later on in the game.
I mean, when you look at Comp Fortnite this year, Vivid, it's been a matter of surge basing here and there.
Yeah.
That is not Malabuka and Mustache's game, right? They want to go into places where people are going to rotate into them and they want to fight people. And they did that so expertly here. And it felt like a vintage game for them, even towards the end game, right? Just causing havoc on lower layers is what they were always known for doing. And so it's great to see them in their element here on LAN.
I wanted to call out their 6th place Chap and Teeny. We see them just go up a few points there. They managed to fight that Rift Island, fight for that Rift Island and claim it. But we did not see them in that end game, right? Think back, they won game number 1, and then it's kind of, they're not necessarily stalling out, but there's something that is kind of keeping them from hitting these final few end games. What's going on? What do you think?
Well, maybe it's the giant surprise of them not landing where we were kind of expecting them to land. They're actually landing over at the Nitro Dome, right? Which, you know, very, very like them to kind of just randomly land somewhere. And maybe we're kind of seeing the effects of that, right? Maybe now that players around them have kind of adapted to how those rotations are kind of being made by them. They're like, oh, so this team's going to be doing this now. We're obviously not going to allow them to do that or something like that. But I'm sure there's adaptations being made by some of these players.
Absolutely. I wrote down a whole long list of like effects of them switching up their drop and the team's effects. Before we get to that though, right? Them landing on Nitro Dome, some added context. It was the spot they landed at, right? Last season, right? When they were playing. And when you actually look at where they were deciding to land, they never really committed to a spot, right? At one point, they wanted to go reckless and they were going to go towards the underworld. And it's funny, I spoke to Kanada and Cooper a couple days ago, and they were like, for sure, those guys are going to go Nitro Dome. They knew, they were like, 100% those guys aren't committing to whatever they're saying they're going to commit to. They're going to land on us. And I guess they were very prepared for it. But even then, man, Trappintini is the kind of thing you expected them to do, right? Have some sort of switch up in game plan.
I love that the casters going into that game called out micro adjustments, right? Game to game, we're just thinking these little nuanced things. How do we get the upper hand on all of these duos? And of course, now being the halfway point, it is more important than ever to do so.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you actually brought up that halfway point, right? And quote unquote adaptations, because now that we are actually in that halfway mark, the players are off the stage. Right. They're actually behind the scenes right now. And right now they have the opportunity to not only talk amongst themselves, right? Kind of get refreshed, kind of reboot back up into the competition, but the opportunity to also talk to their coaches who are hopefully seeing things that they are not.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to some of the coaches out here, right? We were talking to Sven and Razari, right? Those guys coach a bunch of the players here, a bunch of the top teams here. And there are some top teams, I think, who have maybe had a quiet first 3 games. So there's going to be plenty to talk about behind the scenes.
That's right. Well, you heard it here. The players are currently on a halfway point break. So what we're going to do is we're going to step away. When we return, though, game number 4 from the FNCS Global Championship.
My pledge is eternal service. We will eradicate your kind from the galaxy. day a Xenos Overlord falls. For the Emperor!
Well, hello, Fortnite fans. Kelly Link here in the Creator Lounge, where I am just surrounded by so many incredible people, and two of my favorite people are going to be joining me right now. Panda, Jacob PR. I feel like we're bringing it back all the way to NA West on the FNCS. It is so good to be talking with you guys. How you doing, Panda?
Hey, listen, it's the Global Championship, so you better believe we're loving it. What's going on, Texas?
It is so exciting, so electric, and I know that so many people here are excited for Game 4, but we do have a little bit of a break, Jacob. But when that break comes back, I'm ready for Game 4. What about you?
Oh, I'm definitely ready for it. Even though there's like a little bit of a slow start and some hiccups, including that last way the game ended, Peterbot and Pollo, oh my God, this is a legacy in the making, and there's 9 more games throughout the weekend, and I couldn't be more stoked.
But man, I thought that was going to be Peterbot and Pollo's game. Everything worked out so well from them on high ground, where we've seen them time and time again. But who was waiting for them on the low ground? Swizzy. Is that something you could have expected, that 1v1 going out that way?
Honestly, yeah, I can't lie. I predicted that was going to happen. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But no, honestly, really it is the nerves, right? That's the biggest moment that Peterbot's had of the day. He came down, he tried to take the fight, and unfortunately it just didn't go his way. But that's how it happens sometimes.
But even without the victory royale, Peterbot and Pollo are currently sitting in first place, and I think that's something a lot of us kind of expected today. Do you think they're going to keep this going?
I 100% think they do. Consistency is key, and in a lot of their big wins throughout the course to get here, it's been their consistency, and Pollo, I think, has been a huge backbone for this roster that doesn't get enough credit, so just a big shout out to Pollo.
Well, speaking giving credit, Swizzy, absolutely incredible. Not even playing with his main duo of Yapko and still taking the victory royale. What an incredible performance.
Yeah, honestly, listen, you can't count out Swizzy. He is a phenomenal player playing with Yapko. Obviously, shout out Vanyak for not being here. But honestly, this duo is special. They still have a very, very good shot at taking that top spot. So just because Peterbot and Pollo are there now does not mean they've secured it. I'm telling you, there is still a lot of games to play.
Guys, I am so grateful for you to chat for me real quick. And before I let you go and go back to the desk, where can people find you? What do you have planned for the rest of the weekend?
Oh, listen, we got a ton of great stuff going on this weekend. Make sure to check out Life with Panda, Life W Panda on all socials. Jacob and I are hosting a post-Global Championship live stream, so make sure you tune in. I can't wait. And of course, the lovely Kelly Link. I'll let you send it off.
Oh my goodness, thank you. But real quick, Jacob, where can people find you? I know as far as watch party goes, you are constantly streaming FNCS watch parties. Where can people find you?
On Twitter and Twitch, you can go to Jacob MVPR because I'm the most valuable Puerto Rican in this place.
Thank you guys so much, and let's head back to the desk.
No, Jacob. What?
Yeah. That's Jacob.
Dude, I love Jacob PR, bro. I'm honestly thankful he's not here, because if he was, he'd be so tall. Anyway, thank you so much to Life with Panda, Jacob PR. We love you guys. And I like that Panda kind of called out one thing specifically. There's still like a lot of games left to go. Keep in mind, we still have 3 today, 6 tomorrow, but under that 1.5 times multiplier. We're already seeing games go crazy. Things kind of unfold, maybe not in ways we expected. What have you guys been seeing and that maybe excites you about the last 3 games?
Why don't we go ahead and start with the early game here, Levin, right? There's big questions around, well, pretty much almost every single spot on the map. Yeah. But I think Brutal Beachhead was a big question mark. How was Acorn and Colden and Alex and Sato going to go? And right now, you know, game number 1 was a little bit passive. Games 2 and 3, though, Acorn and Cold have come out with 2 eliminations each one of those games.
Yeah, and that's huge, man. I mean, Acorn and Cold, if they weren't uncontested, would have been a favorite to win, right? So seeing how they did there was going to be crucial.
That's right. I actually just got word. We have an interview lined up. Adam Savage is standing by with our duo in the first place. Adam, what you got for us?
Well, I've currently got with me the leaders of our competition right now. Peterbot and Poyo join me here in the player lounge. Fellas, it has been an unbelievable start of proceedings. Peterbot, 23 eliminations. Looking 23, I think so. Both you guys so far, yeah. Leading it. He was like, just me? 23, so... but he expects that. He expects 23 straight up after bat. What's that?
I gotta have 17. My AR aim right now is looking crazy.
Like 16 or 17. Okay. Well, I mean, whatever happens, it's looking strong, and you're very much in the lead here. Poyo, walk us through the first kind of like couple of exchanges on the forecast towers first and foremost. You guys got it 1 time so far. Does that kind of does it concern you at all? Is that a real issue, or are you guys just kind of like heading through whatever happens regardless?
No, I think the first game, like, we were getting held by a team, Baka Pars. They were sitting in like a bush. But after that, like after we were able to get to the forecast, we were fine. No one contested or anything. The next 2 games, we weren't able to get it because they didn't spawn.
Well, we saw as well, like the zone shifting left, right, and center for you guys. How's it felt in those first 3 games, adapting as well? I mean, we saw that you're going to be a lot of players going to challenge you guys. You saw an elimination feed clicks in that first game as well. That must have felt real good too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it felt good. It was just like I was like, so he got eliminated, and basically, I just got like 5 eliminations in 1 zone, and then like the win, like that are expected to win, and yeah, I mean.
Talk me through that exchange as well. There was Swizzy right at the very end of that last game there. Does those kind of moments get under your skin at all? Do you kind of feel those? Or you just going to move on to the next thing?
No, we got a 12 elimination second, so it really doesn't matter to me. We're in first by 40 points or something.
Looking good. Poyo, I've got to ask you as well. We heard the crowd as well going wild. Obviously, you guys. Peterbot gets I think home court advantage to a degree. How does it feel for you as well? We're playing alongside Peterbot when you kind of hear the hype around from the fans here in the stadium and at home too.
I mean, it's amazing. It brings me up as well, like with Peter's fans. I mean, it affects me too.
Yeah. Well, you guys have had an unbelievable year thus far. Will they make it another win under their belts? For 3 games in so far, it's looking very, very good for Peterbot and Poyo. For now, it's back to the desk. These guys getting back to their seats. Game 4 is imminent.
You know, I think one of my favorite things about Peterbot, I'm going to say something and let me get the whole thought out, okay? I love that, obviously, they're amazing. They play so well. And I love that Peterbot talks so much because Poyo is like an amazing player. And he's just like, yeah, Peterbot, you just talk for the team. I'm just going to sit way over here, talk for the team. Yeah, things are great, and they're amazing. I'm good. Okay, bye. That's one of my favorite things about them. Is that crazy? Am I crazy?
No, I mean, but I think it really, really works for them, right? And that's what you kind of need when it comes down to duo dynamic, right? Somebody's a little bit more vocal. Maybe that's how it kind of goes in-game as well.
I mean, yeah, I think when you look at the dynamic of that team, anybody that plays with Peterbot is going to have to put their ego to the side. I mean, that guy's got enough ego for all 3 of us on the desk here. You know, he could talk for days, that young lad. But I mean, look, he's a top player and he backs up his talk with performances in game. And it was interesting there, you know, how Adam sort of asked him, like, do you sort of let losing that 2v1 affect you? And I think it's good that it doesn't, right? And he talks about how it doesn't matter, we're still at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, I think it's that sort of mentality to just keep going, even when things don't quite go right, is the key to why they're so successful.
Yeah, I mean, saying, look, 12 elimination, victory royale, or second place, it isn't the victory royale. Now, if tomorrow 1.5 times, you definitely want that victory royale. Those points are going to matter. But, bro, 12 eliminations and a second place, that's still a ton of points.
Right.
And as he called out, he eliminates the second through 5th teams. At that point, you're like, cool, I'm just creating a gap for me and Pollo.
Yeah, instantly looking towards the positives of the situations, not necessarily the negatives, which is really, really good. Now, we were kind of talking about something prior to the break, right? We were like, okay, now they have the opportunity to go ahead and converse amongst themselves with coaches, everything like that. What can we kind of expect going into game number 4 to maybe change, if anything at all?
I mean, one thing I think I noticed throughout the first couple games already was there was a bunch of teams actually switching up their spots. I felt like we were seeing a bunch of different people in areas of the map in early game where they just shouldn't have been. Like King and FaZe were all the way in like the southeast of the map. I think Michael and Job was somewhere there as well. At one point we're like, I thought you guys were landing all the way on the other side. So clearly there's been big switch ups already, and I think we'll probably see a couple more.
Absolutely. You guys have kind of started talking about Acorn and Cold. I kind of wanted to circle back to that conversation. The duo, how are they performing? Are they performing the way, I guess, you kind of, in your mind, envision they would on LAN?